Hi everybody, Matt Bull here, MD of Action Coaching Loughborough, here with another episode of the Business Spotlight. And we're very lucky today to be joined by Yves Didier from Reactive Components Limited. How are you today?
Very good, very good. Good morning to all. I mean, might not be morning for all, but it is for us.
It's a nice sunny day, isn't it? It's a nice sunny day.
It is, absolutely.
Great. Let's get started then. Just start by telling everybody a little bit about what your business does.
Okay, so we are Reactive Component. We are funding the business in April 2018, and we basically deliver product development consultancy, mainly for the polymer composite industry, but generally any material design issue, we could respond to it. So beside developing a product, taking an idea, a concept, capturing it in a product brief, and going through the development stage of finding all the right ingredients, we also then deliver this product to the customer and help them scale up the manufacturing process. Later on during the product life cycle, we may also come back and help with further scale up or further manufacturing process adaptation, or simply help them with their supply chain. Let's say they've run out of a certain material or they need better pricing. We will use our network of raw material manufacturer to help our customer in that case. Our customer would tend to be more materials manufacturer. So if you look at a standard business breakdown, so you will have the OEM. So in the automotive industry, it would be Ford. You will have the tier one, so they would do body panels or gearbox. And then you would have the material manufacturer, so potentially delivering the sheet of steel. Well, it's the same for us, but it's for the polymer composite industry.
Excellent, excellent. So how did you become involved with Reactive Components? Take us back to the start of the journey with Reactive.
Okay, so first of all, just going back a little bit further in time. So I'm a Belgian citizen. So I moved to England after completing my engineering degree, my master's in engineering back in Belgium. And then I thought, you know what, let's go and travel a little bit, improve my English, and hopefully find some interesting job opportunities. So I came to the northeast of England, did a placement with ICI, and was lucky enough to be offered a PhD position at Sheffield University. So that's really when I started being involved with polymer composite. Until then, it had been a subject of study, but never a practical involvement. At the end of my PhD, I then looked around where the leading companies were. So from the northeast of England, Middlesbrough actually, I went all the way down to the Isle of Wight, where a company called SP System, at the time Structural Polymer System, was established. It became later on Gurit, which is one of the leading companies in the field of polymer composite. So I spent about 12 years there, essentially working in technical function, eventually being head of product development worldwide, and also global engineering manager at a later date. Then after that, I moved around a little bit more, so worked for about 3 years for an epoxy tooling board company in Leicester. So that's when I came and moved to Leicester in 2014, and then work also in Europe for a company called Quick Step, another one called Structeam, which is an engineering consultancy. And at that point, I started thinking generally my positions I ended up moving away from them because a department was shut or because a reorganization was happening. Now, I was always offered a job to stay on, but it just never felt right. So eventually I thought, you know what, rather than to let other people decide on my career, I might as well just get on and take hold of it. So that's when in April 2018, I funded Reactive Components. So it really all started from conversation I was having in my last job, where a gentleman realized that one of his customers was losing access to a specific product, and he knew I could develop this product. So I went to the customer, which was based in Germany at the time. I offered my services and spent quite a fair amount of time there. We developed the product within 6 months. It was launched, and it is still successful as we speak. We worked also on an interesting basis, which was deliver the product, so from product brief to market launch, but also remain involved through a licensing fee to ensure the product was always well looked after and always successful in the market. At that point, clearly what we were offering, or what I was, because I was working on my own at that point, was really the extension to the R&D team. So really filling a gap which existed in the company. But also, I think what I realized later on, also the availability, being able to go and work with the team, because sometimes customers feel if you take away their knowledge and use it in your lab, it's always the question, who is going to find out about it? So I think me being available to travel regularly to Germany was also a big selling point. But that was the start, really. That was the start of Reactive Components.
Amazing. And how did you find that transition, I suppose, from what were senior roles, but you were employed, into then being the MD and it kind of being in charge of your own destiny? How did you find that transition?
Well, I'll be honest, I find it quite amazing and quite refreshing. I mean, yes, you have got all the challenges of how do you start a business? I mean, it's not very clear. I'm sure you will have been faced with similar issues. But actually, if you take it in your stride and try to resolve the problem as they arise, it's quite refreshing and quite rewarding, really. I would say the biggest challenge in that early part was really being away from my family. So the customers love having me on site, because literally they had this expert who was able to help across the board. Yes, I had a project, but I was there as well for advice when needed. But that meant I was leaving a lot of the time away from my family. So that was a challenge. But in terms of, I suppose, one of the big things of moving from, you're right, senior roles to being on your own, the big discovery I felt was, as an employee, you tend to forget what you bring to the business. Yes, you get reward in promotion, in wages, in bonuses, if you are lucky. But do you always understand your true value? When you are on your own, that's when simple advice suddenly appear to be a fantastic service. So I think that was, so the first couple of months living abroad, a couple of years living abroad on a regular basis was challenging, but the reward and the discovery of the real value I could bring to customer was exciting and yes, enriching, definitely.
Excellent. And where have you got the business to now then? I mean, we were just talking earlier, you're now located in a very high growth area of Leicester. How has the business evolved, and how do you see it evolving moving forward?
So the first part of your question is, I'm sure for every business, is very much linked and revolved around the coronavirus. So we are talking about a company with one expert, myself, traveling to customer and delivering the services, and quite successfully. Not major issues. Project, they've got challenges, but you resolve them. So generally, the customer was satisfied. And I remember being at the time in Germany, And as I'm making my way to the site of my customer, checking my email, I was walking down and seeing decision has been taken. You cannot go back to the office. And I'm like, okay. So within that day, I decided, let's go back to Leicester, rearrange my flight and disappear. Thank God, because I could have spent a few months on my own in a flat somewhere in Germany. But then suddenly, the first few months, because of my previous involvement, I kept doing project management at a distance. But as I sometimes try to describe, what we sell as reactive component is it's like a baker. If you don't have a kitchen, it's very difficult to really do a good job. So the early days of project management, that was okay, but that's not really our expertise. That's when I decided I've got to have a kitchen, I've got to have a laboratory, and that's when I decided to open up a laboratory here in Leicester, just at a few meters from the National Space Centre. And we've got about 100 square meters of a laboratory. But that was a big decision forced upon me. However, I remember at the time speaking with my accountant, and he was saying, listen, you have always said you'd do it. So for him, it was just, it happened maybe a bit earlier than what I had planned, but he knew it would happen at some point. So here we go. We are now on a totally different business model from a quite simple model where I get paid for my services and I pay for travel accommodation and insurance. I'm now having to look after a larger amount of fixed cost, and I'm not so available anymore to travel for long periods. I also needed to develop the team because again, having a lab is great, but you need equipment and you need people, you need good people. So June 2021 is when the new, in our 5 years as Reactive Component, I really see only year 2 of the new setup. And because the new setup is, I think, very different in the challenges it brought up, I think often people said the first 3 years are the one which matter. I've got still another year to kind of settle into the new regime, let's say.
Very cool.
So that's where we are as a business. We are now a fixed cost business where we can take. So the great advantage is, before, by being located at one customer premises, potentially that reduced your appeal for other customers. Yeah. You cannot really be carrying project from a different customer, so you are a little bit stuck. Now, being here at Leicester gave us the opportunity to grow the business, but also to multiply the project in which we are involved. This creates its own issues, because that means you need to develop your sales and commercial know-how a little bit stronger than to have those 2 or 3 customers who bring you your income, really.
Very cool. Very cool. So, I mean, it's a fascinating story, and one that would definitely support a longer form interview. But in the interest of time, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody at the end, which is, if you could give a younger version of yourself any advice, given the journey you've been on, what advice would that be?
Start earlier.
So many people say that. That is such a common answer to that question.
Yeah. Because I think you realize, I mean, it is challenging, and I have absolutely no regret of my time as an employee. But I think the frustration which grew potentially following leaving Gurit. Gurit was a stable environment, providing training and providing opportunity for growth. In hindsight, is your financial value always recognized? Well, you are part of a bigger organization, so it is what it is. But certainly, you kind of realize that it is challenging. Don't get me wrong, but I think the reward is much bigger on a personal level, on a professional level. The project you get involved, you choose them. The customer you work with, you generally choose them. You don't, they might not choose you, always, but you certainly go towards them with the idea of saying it would be nice to work on that project with a specific customer. So definitely start earlier, be braver, go for it.
Very cool. Very cool. Listen, Yves, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this episode of the Business Spotlight. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for sharing your experience and journey so far. We wish you all the best moving forward with the growth of the business. And thanks again for coming on this episode of the Business Spotlight.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. It's been great. It's been very enjoyable. Speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.